When you live in a racist society, you begin to internalize all of these racist views. Like I would straighten my hair, I bleached my skin, I changed my accent. And through the process of sharing poetry and being around community, Voices of Color was my way to unlearn all of those things. Hello, my name is Anissa Sanyu Nandaula. I'm a poet and a writer and one of the founders of the Voices of Color Collective. My body is a television, and my existence is a channel that I never really held the remote control to. I was always click, changing to survive, click. I had a theory that if I was fast enough, I could outrun an idea. On your marks, get set. I'd be gone before their racism could ever catch up to me. If I was stronger, if I was smarter, if I was faster, click. Voices of Color started 5 years ago when I was 16. There were no spaces in Brisbane where I felt like I could share my work in a safe environment with other people who looked like me. So we rolled like a little PA onto the bus and trekked it into Brisbane city, stood in the center in public with all these people walking past, and we just started sharing poetry. And it started out with like 3 people. 3 became 30, 30 became 100, and we just kept going from there. It was an act of political defiance, the fact that we could reclaim the city and reclaim this public space. There's a safety in having your stories being validated, and when you're in white spaces, it's not that they're malicious, it's simply that they lack the capacity to validate your stories because they haven't lived them.
I'm an 11-year-old girl that wants to wear diamonds and pearls, straighten my curly hair, and oh, how I love that my skin is a bit more fairer than my sister's, because then people would stare and think to themselves, your parents probably don't care. You'll just end up like the rest of the unemployed, dope-smoking Aboriginal girls and boys. Good luck trying to avoid the poison that was spread by colonisers with their sick meds. And we were the guinea pigs that were fed and put to the test. Given food rations that was not meant for our digestive system. Taken away and put on missions far, far away from our brothers and sisters. Now left and stuck in your prison systems.
Watching Gayala on the stage, for me, just exuded purpose. She wanted to talk about deaths in custody. She wanted to talk about police brutality. She wasn't just speaking for herself, but for her ancestors and all the people who came before and will come.
It took a man to die overseas for people to realise that this happens here.
Yeah.
And there was so much that I could get across to people about what goes on in Australia.
I met Sachem at a Voices of Color event. He was still in high school, desperate to find places that he could share his poetry. And he started telling me, Anissa, I really want to do rap music. I think this could be a future for me. And seeing him now, releasing an album, an EP, touring, becoming a household name in a lot of communities that he's never even been to, but they're touched by his music, is incredible. He shows the journey that an artist can take when they're surrounded by support. He can come into this space and achieve his greatness, and not only do that, but reinvest into the community, and that is a beautiful cycle.
I'm heading back to the motherland. I'm heading back to my mother's hands. I've been running, man. I've been running to a future that might never exist. I took an oath to go and search the abyss, and so I did. And what I found was so profound. I searched my whole existence through my lyrics and nouns. All I knew what to do was to follow my heart, but everything that I learned just took me back to the start.
Since starting Voices of Color, we were just creating the art. Now we're creating the structures that facilitate diversity. I'm from Uganda, and I'm a strong, proud black clique. I'm sitting at Warrigal Road State Primary School, and my friend asks me if I've ever considered what I'd look like if I was white. and she places her hands on my cheeks and says, "Anissa, you would look so beautiful. It's such a shame." Click. I share a lot of poetry in regional areas, and I had a boy put his hand up and say, "I am guilty of doing some of the racist acts that you talked about in your poem. And now, because of what you just shared, I'm going to be more conscious." And it was beautiful because it wasn't about blame, this is your fault or your fault. It was about taking ownership of the fact that we have a responsibility to each other as human beings. I think a massive epiphany for me is that when you cancel someone, that doesn't cancel their views. They can still vote. They can still dictate the political discussion. So instead of pushing people away, we need to welcome them into the discussion. To begin tackling racism is firstly having a willingness to understand, ask questions, be curious about other people's experiences, not to respond, but simply just to listen and take in information. Secondly, have a willingness to be wrong. It's incredible to be wrong because now you get to move forward with a wider perspective of how the world is. And thirdly, knowing that being uncomfortable is a great thing. Your lack of comfort could be someone else's safety. I genuinely believe that you cannot be what you cannot see, and Australia's narrative is weaved with immigrant and First Nation stories, and to be honest to who we are, we need to tell all of those stories.
To learn more about how to end racism, visit education.abc.net.au.